Chosen one, why are you still waiting for someone else's permission to step into what God already ordained for you? Why do you keep apologizing for the fire burning in your bones when heaven itself lit that flame? Why are you living like you're forgotten when your name is written in eternal ink? You didn't just stumble on this message. No, this moment was written into your timeline long before you took your first breath, before your first heartbreak, before your first doubt, before you ever whispered, "God, have you forgotten me?" Here's what they never told you in Sunday school. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on nobodies. If you've been under attack, if you felt isolated, if you've questioned your worth, congratulations. You're not broken, you're targeted, because heaven sees what hell fears. Today will not feel like every other Sunday, because this isn't just another Sunday. This is the great Sunday, and a miracle is about to knock at your door. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Like Moses standing before a burning bush. You are standing on holy ground right now, even if it's just your living room. Even if you're watching this in your pajamas with yesterday's coffee. Even if you feel ordinary. God specializes in burning through ordinary to reveal the extraordinary. If you feel something stirring deep in your chest right now, that's not anxiety, that's recognition. Your spirit knows what your mind hasn't caught up to yet. You are the chosen one this message was sent for. Say it with me, I receive it. Type it in the comments. Whisper it to your soul. Let your spirit respond. This is not a video, it's a visitation. This is not entertainment. It's an encounter. And listen, thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. Because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about your limitations. The great miracle isn't coming, it's here, and it's got your name on it. Stay with me, chosen one. Your life is about to change. How many nights have you stared at the ceiling, wondering if God still remembers your name? How many prayers have you whispered into the darkness, feeling like your words are bouncing off heaven's closed doors? How many times have you questioned whether the dreams He planted in your heart decades ago were just cruel illusions? Listen to me, dear one. I see you, sitting there with silver in your hair and stories etched in the lines of your face. You've carried burdens that would have crushed weaker souls. You've weathered storms that have no names. You've walked through valleys so deep that sunlight felt like a forgotten memory. You've waited. You've prayed through decades. Some of you have buried dreams that once burned bright as stars. Others have buried loved ones whose laughter still echoes in empty rooms. You've endured medical reports that stole your sleep, financial pressures that bent your back, family relationships that left scars deeper than flesh. You've walked through long, silent seasons where God's voice seemed muffled, distant, almost absent. But here's what the enemy never wanted you to discover. The silence was never empty. It was sacred preparation. Every sleepless night, God was working. Every unanswered prayer, heaven was orchestrating. Every closed door, divine redirection. Every tear that fell in secret, sacred irrigation for the miracle that's about to bloom. The scripture declares in Isaiah 60:1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." Not tomorrow's light, not next year's glory, your light, your glory. Today, you think you've been forgotten, but you've been incubated. You think you've been ignored, but you've been prepared. You think you've been delayed, but you've been refined in the furnace of faithfulness until you could carry what's about to be released. And today, heaven says, enough waiting. The long night is over. The great Sunday has come. But why today? Why now? Why you? Because God doesn't operate on human calendars. He operates on kairos time, divine timing, where every second carries eternal weight. Your 70 years, your 80 years, your 90 years on this earth, they weren't just accumulating age. They were accumulating authority, accumulating wisdom, accumulating the kind of faith that can only be forged in the furnace of time. Young people pray for miracles. But you've learned to wait for them. You've learned to trust when you can't see. You've learned to stand when everything says fall. That's why this miracle is coming to you now. Because you can handle it. Because you deserve it. Because heaven has been watching your faithfulness and the time of reward has come. You see, God has a special tenderness for those who've walked the long road. David wrote in Psalm 71-18, "Even when I am old and grey, do not forsake me, my God, till I declare your power to the next generation. You're not forgotten. You're being positioned to be a witness. Every medical scare that didn't take you out, every financial crisis you survived, every relationship that tried to break you but didn't, those weren't just random trials. Those were divine testings, proving to heaven and hell that you are unbreakable, unmovable, unshakable. The young ones chase after God's hand, but you've learned to seek His face. The young ones want blessings, but you've learned to want the blesser. That's why this miracle carries different weight when it comes to you. It's not just favor, it's inheritance. It's not just blessing, it's reward for faithfulness that refused to quit. Right now, even as these words wash over your spirit, something is shifting in the heavenly realm. The angels assigned to your breakthrough have been given new instructions. The doors that have been sealed are hearing the sound of heaven's key turning. The promises that seem to mock you with their delay are suddenly accelerating toward manifestation. This isn't just another Sunday morning. This is the great Sunday, the day your faithfulness collides with God's timing and creates an explosion of divine intervention that will leave no doubt who you serve. You've earned your stripes in silence. You've paid your dues in patience. You've graduated from the school of long suffering with highest honors. And now comes your commencement into the season of divine compensation. But there's something else you need to understand. This miracle isn't just for you. It's through you. God is about to use your breakthrough to break the chains of doubt off an entire generation. Your testimony will become their permission slip to believe again. The enemy targeted you with extra intensity because he knew what was coming. He knew that when your season arrived, it would carry such power that others would catch fire just from watching your life ignite. So I ask you again, why today? Why now? Why you? Because heaven looked at your track record and said, this one can be trusted with a public miracle. Because your character has been tested and found unbreakable. Because your faith has been refined and found pure. Because your heart has been broken and healed and broken and healed until it beats with the very rhythm of heaven itself. The long night is over, chosen one. And what's about to dawn in your life will blind the darkness that tried to bury you. But here's what I need you to understand. As we step into the revelation of what's about to unfold, you know what breaks my heart? Walking through hospital corridors at 2 a.m. and hearing the whispered prayers from room 247. An 82-year-old grandmother, tubes in her arms, whispering, God, if you're still listening, I know I've waited too long. I know I've made mistakes. But please, just one more chance. Stop right there. Do you hear what's happening? Do you recognize that voice? That's not just her prayer. That's your prayer. That's the prayer you've whispered in your own midnight moments, believing you've somehow missed your window with God. Here's the revelation that's about to shatter everything you thought you knew about divine timing. The miracle you've been waiting on? It's been waiting on you. Let me tell you about a man who waited 38 years. 38 years. John chapter 5 tells us about a crippled man lying by the pool of Bethesda. For nearly 4 decades, this man watched miracle after miracle happen for everyone else. He watched the lame walk past him. He watched the blind see around him. He watched hope slip through his fingers year after year. Sound familiar? How many times have you watched others get their breakthrough while you stayed stuck? How many times have you seen younger people walk into opportunities you've been praying for since before they were born? How many times have you wondered if God simply forgot about you? But here's where the story gets dangerous. When Jesus finally showed up after 38 years of waiting, he asked the most shocking question in all of Scripture. Do you want to be healed? Wait, what? After 38 years of obvious suffering, Jesus asks if he wants to be healed. That seems cruel, doesn't it? Until you realize what Jesus was really asking. Are you ready to stop being comfortable with your limitations? Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody talks about in church. Some of you have gotten so used to waiting that you've made an identity out of your delay. You've gotten so comfortable with almost that you're terrified of, actually. You've rehearsed your reasons for why it hasn't happened so many times that you've become fluent in the language of limitation. But not today. Not on the Great Sunday. Heaven's tide is turning. And your name, yes, your name is on the next wave. The enemy of your soul has been feeding you a lie for decades. He's convinced you that because you're older, because you've made mistakes, because you've waited so long, that somehow God's promises have an expiration date. That's a demonic deception designed to steal your destiny. God's promises don't expire at 65. They don't become invalid at 70. They don't lose their power at 80. The same God who called Abraham at 75 to birth a nation is the same God calling you today to birth your miracle. But here's what's different about today, about this moment, about this great Sunday. This is the moment you stop begging and start receiving. Do you feel that shift happening in your chest right now? That's not heartburn from this morning's coffee. That's your spirit recognizing divine appointment. That's your soul awakening to what your mind hasn't caught up to yet. For too long, you've approached God with the posture of a beggar instead of the confidence of a son, the assurance of a daughter. You've crawled to the throne when he's been waiting for you to walk boldly into your inheritance. The miracle is not coming. It's here. It's in this room with you right now. It's been circling your life like a divine airplane waiting for permission to land. And today, this great Sunday, is your tower giving clearance for touchdown. But I need you to understand something that will determine whether you catch this wave or watch it pass by again. Miracles require movement. The man at Bethesda had to pick up his mat and walk. The blind man had to go wash in the pool. The lepers had to go show themselves to the priest. Every miracle in Scripture required the recipient to do something. What is God asking you to do today? What mat do you need to pick up? What pool do you need to wash in? What step of faith is He requiring? Because I can guarantee you this. The thing you're most afraid to do is probably exactly what will unlock your miracle. Are you afraid to make that phone call? Make it. Are you afraid to have that conversation? Have it. Are you afraid to take that risk? Take it. Are you afraid to forgive that person? Forgive them. Are you afraid to believe again? Believe again. The enemy has convinced you that it's too late, that you're too old, that you've missed too much. But God specializes in resurrection. He specializes in bringing dead things back to life. He specializes in making beauty from ashes, oil from crushing, and miracles from mess. Your age is not your disqualification. It's your divine authorization. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle is a roadmap of resilience. Every scar is a testimony of survival. You're not too old for God to use. You're perfectly seasoned for your assignment. Say this out loud with me. The miracle is not coming. It's here. It's mine. Let your mouth prophesy what your soul already knows. Let your voice activate what your faith has been incubating. Let your declaration become your divine activation. Because, chosen one, what happens next depends entirely on your response to this moment. Will you let another great Sunday pass by while you rehearse your reasons for delay? Or will you rise up and receive what heaven has already released? The clock is ticking. The tide is turning. Your moment is now. Dear chosen one, I need you to hear something that's going to shake the foundation of every lie you've believed about yourself. You think you've been walking through life unnoticed, unmarked, forgotten by the very God who spoke galaxies into existence. But that's the greatest deception the enemy ever whispered in your ear. You were marked before your mother even knew she was carrying you. Before your first cry pierced the delivery room air, before your tiny lungs drew their first breath, God looked at you and said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you." That's Jeremiah 1-5, and it's not poetry, it's your spiritual birth certificate. You've been walking around thinking you're invisible to heaven. You've been believing that your struggles went unnoticed, that your midnight tears fell on deaf ears. But listen to this truth that will shatter that lie forever. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. They are listed in your book. Psalm 56-8. Every single tear you've cried, the ones from heartbreak, from disappointment, from feeling forgotten, God caught them. He numbered them. He treasured them enough to keep them. Do you understand what that means? While you were convinced nobody cared, the creator of the universe was collecting your pain like precious pearls. While you thought you were screaming into the void, heaven was taking detailed notes. Your suffering wasn't meaningless, it was meaningful enough for God to catalog it personally. You've been asking, where is God in my delay? But what if I told you that every delay in your life has been running on a divine clock? What if those closed doors weren't rejections but redirections? What if those no's weren't punishments but protections? You've been measuring God's timing by your calendar, but He's been measuring your preparation by His eternal schedule. That job, you didn't get. What if you weren't ready for the weight of what it would have brought? That relationship that ended, what if staying would have stunted the growth you needed for your real destiny? That dream that seemed to die, what if it had to be buried so something greater could resurrect from its ashes? You've been walking around with a crown you forgot you were wearing. But heaven never forgot. While you've been looking down at your scars, God has been looking at your royal bloodline. While you've been seeing your failures, He's been seeing your future. You are not an accident wandering through life hoping for purpose. You are a chosen vessel, handpicked by the Almighty, walking in a destiny that was sealed before time began. But here's what's going to revolutionize everything you thought you knew about your story. Your miracle has your name engraved on it. Not your maiden name, not your nickname, not what people call you when they're disappointed. Your real name, the one God whispered over you in the secret place before you were born. And heaven won't let it pass you by. Why do you think you're hearing this message right now? Do you really think it's coincidence that you clicked on this video today? Do you believe it's chance that these words are hitting your heart like arrows finding their target? Stop calling divine appointments accidents. Stop diminishing God's precision by labeling it luck. You're sitting there right now, maybe in your favorite chair, maybe lying in bed, maybe stealing a moment in your car, and you're feeling something stirring. That stirring isn't indigestion. That's recognition. That's your spirit saying, finally, someone sees what I've been trying to tell this mind for years. You have been chosen for this moment. Not because you're perfect, but because you're authentic. Not because you never fell, but because you got back up. Not because you never doubted, but because you kept believing even when belief felt like sandpaper against your soul. Listen to me very carefully. You're not watching this by accident. You're not watching this as a reminder. You're watching this as a confirmation. Confirmation that what you felt in your spirit was real. Confirmation that the dreams you thought were too big actually weren't big enough. Confirmation that the calling you've been running from is the very calling that's been chasing you down to set you free. The enemy tried to convince you that you missed your moment. He whispered that your time has passed, that your opportunity sailed while you were still getting ready. But God doesn't operate in expiration dates. He operates in suddenly moments. And your suddenly is not behind you, it's right in front of you. This great Sunday isn't just another day in your story. It's the divine turning point where your preparation meets God's manifestation, where your faithfulness collides with His favor, where your endurance finally embraces your breakthrough, But here's the question that will determine everything that happens next in your life. Will you finally stop running from the crown that's been waiting for your head? You know what makes this Sunday different from every other Sunday you've ever lived through? It's not just another date on your calendar. It's not another routine morning where you wake up, make your coffee, and wonder if anything's ever going to change. This is the great Sunday. The one that splits your life into before and after. 2,000 years ago, on a Sunday morning that shook the foundations of hell itself, death met its match. The stone rolled away, the grave clothes fell empty, and heaven announced to every principality and power, "It is finished," didn't mean the end, it meant the beginning. That wasn't just Jesus' resurrection, that was the blueprint for yours. But here's what the church forgot to tell you, what they whispered in hushed tones instead of shouting from the rooftops. This Sunday is your resurrection. Not when you die, not in some distant heaven. Right here, right now, in your broken marriage, in your failing health, in your empty bank account, in your silent phone that never rings anymore. You've been living in Friday, the crucifixion of your dreams, the burial of your hopes. You've been stuck in Saturday, the silence, the waiting, the wondering if God even remembers your name. But Sunday changes everything. And this is your Sunday. Everything the enemy tried to bury you with, the rejection, the betrayal, the diagnosis, the financial ruin, the loneliness that cuts deeper than any knife, God's about to resurrect you through it. Not around it, not despite it, through it. Because resurrection doesn't avoid the grave, it conquers it. Remember Lazarus? 4 days dead. 4 days, not 4 hours, not 4 minutes. 4 days rotting in a tomb while his sisters wept and whispered, "If only Jesus had come sooner." If only. Those 2 words that have haunted you, haven't they? If only I had made different choices. If only I had more time. If only God would hurry up. But when Jesus finally showed up, Martha had the audacity to say, "Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days." Translation, you're too late. Sound familiar? How many times have you looked at your situation and whispered those same words? God, you're too late. The damage is done. The opportunity has passed. I'm too old. I'm too broken. I'm too far gone. But Jesus, oh Jesus, he looked at that tomb and said something that still echoes through eternity. "Lazarus, come forth." He didn't whisper it. He didn't politely suggest it. He commanded it with the same voice that spoke galaxies into existence. And death? Death had no choice but to obey. He's not too late for you. He's right on time. And he's calling your name. Can you hear it? In the depths of your despair, in the silence of your struggle, in the echo of your emptiness, your name is being called. Not by guilt, not by shame, not by condemnation, by the same voice that raised the dead. This is the moment, right here, right now, not when you feel ready, not when you have your life together, not when you understand the plan. Now, because resurrection doesn't wait for permission. It responds to desperation. It answers surrender. It moves when faith takes its first trembling step. You want to know the difference between surviving and thriving, between existing and truly living, between hoping and knowing. It's this moment, this great Sunday, this divine appointment that you didn't schedule but God did. If this is your moment and deep in your spirit, you know it is, then stop acting like a victim of your circumstances and start moving like the victor you were created to be. Stand up. I don't care if you're in your kitchen making breakfast, if you're in a hospital bed fighting for your life, if you're alone in your car wondering if anyone cares. Stand up, because resurrection doesn't wait for the polite. It responds to the bold. Stand up in your faith. Stand up in your declaration. Stand up in the face of every doctor's report, every bank statement, every empty room that reminds you of who's no longer there. Stand up, because when you do, you're not just changing your posture, you're aligning with heaven's purpose. The enemy has been telling you for years that your best days are behind you, that your dreams died with your youth, that your time has passed, that your failures define you, that your age disqualifies you, that your past mistakes have written your future limitations. He's a liar. Your greatest chapter isn't behind you, it's being written today. Your most powerful prayer isn't the one you prayed in desperation, it's the one you're about to pray in declaration. Your strongest moment isn't when you had everything, it's when you choose to believe God even when you have nothing. This great Sunday isn't just about remembering what Jesus did, it's about experiencing what He's still doing, in you, through you, for you. The same power that raised Christ from the dead is living, breathing, moving in your mortal body right now. Not as a nice theological concept, as a present reality. So I'm asking you, no, I'm challenging you. Will you let this Sunday pass like every other Sunday? Will you nod your head at the message and change the channel? Will you say, that was nice, and go back to your routine? Or will you let this be the great Sunday that changes everything? Because what happens next isn't up to me. It's not up to your circumstances. It's not up to your age or your health or your bank account. What happens next is up to you, and the clock is ticking. Your moment is here. Your resurrection is calling. Your great Sunday has arrived. You felt that stirring in your spirit during the hook, didn't you? That recognition, that knowing. But here's where most people stop. They receive the blessing and think the story ends there. They pocket the miracle like a lucky coin and walk away unchanged. But you're not most people. You didn't survive all that pain to stay small. You've been carried through the valley of the shadow of death, not so you could build a monument to your suffering, but so you could become a voice of hope to someone else who's walking through their own darkness right now. Think about it. Every test you passed, every night you cried yourself to sleep and still woke up believing, every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, every moment you held on to faith when your circumstances screamed otherwise. You think that was just for you? No, beloved, that was your commissioning. Every widow in this nation knows what I'm talking about. You've felt the weight of an empty house, haven't you? The silence where laughter used to live, the side of the bed that stays cold. But you're still here, you're still fighting, you're still believing. And right now, there's another woman, maybe she's 73, maybe she's 86, and she's sitting in her kitchen at 2 a.m., wondering if God remembers her name. She needs to hear your voice. Every man watching this who's lost his purpose along with his pension, you know what I'm talking about. Society tells you you're done, finished, put out to pasture. But heaven sees a warrior who's been refined by fire. Heaven sees a man who's learned the difference between success and significance. And right now there's a young father who's about to give up on his marriage, give up on his dreams, give up on himself. He needs to see your strength. Your children still need your prayers. Don't you dare tell me they're grown and gone. Don't you dare tell me your parenting days are over. Your 40-year-old son is fighting battles you can't see. Your daughter is questioning decisions that could alter her destiny. Your grandchildren are growing up in a world that's forgotten how to pray. They need your intercession. Your neighbors still need your light. Yes, even Mrs. Henderson next door, who hasn't spoken to you since the property line dispute of 2019. Even the young couple across the street who plays their music too loud and never waves back. Even the teenager whose parents work 3 jobs and comes home to an empty house every day. They need your witness, your legacy. It's still in motion. You think your story is winding down, but God is saying it's just getting started. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. Sarah was 90 when she held Isaac. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." What mountain is God asking you to claim? Listen to me carefully. In the book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 14, Mordecai looked at his niece and said something that will shake you to your core. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. For such a time as this. Not for yesterday's battles, not for tomorrow's dreams, for right now, for this moment when democracy trembles, for this season when families are fracturing, for this hour when hope seems harder to find than a parking space in Manhattan. You were born for such a time as this. But here's what's going to challenge every comfortable thought you've had about retirement, about slowing down, about fading quietly into the sunset. The miracle God performed in your life, your healing, your restoration, your breakthrough, it wasn't the destination, it was the launching pad. The miracle isn't for you, it's through you. You've been asking God, why me? Why did I have to go through all that pain? And He's been waiting for you to stop asking why and start asking what. What am I supposed to do with this victory? What am I supposed to do with this wisdom? What am I supposed to do with this testimony that could set someone else free? You've been talking about your season being over. God says it's just beginning. Every divorce you survived taught you how to help marriages heal. Every financial crisis you overcame gave you the blueprint to guide others out of debt. Every addiction you conquered, every depression you defeated, every diagnosis you defied, none of it was wasted. All of it was preparation. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, there's someone listening who's been feeling invisible, forgotten. Like their best days are behind them, like their voice doesn't matter anymore, like they should just be grateful for what they've got and stop dreaming about what they could still become. That someone is you. And I'm here to tell you that the enemy has been lying to you about your expiration date. You don't have an expiration date, you have an activation date. And today, this great Sunday, is that day. The miracle that restored your health isn't so you can just enjoy your golden years. It's so you can be a golden voice in someone's darkest hour. The financial breakthrough that came isn't just so you can secure your retirement, it's so you can be the answer to someone else's desperate prayer. The blessing isn't the end, it's the beginning. Remember when I told you this wasn't just another Sunday? Now you know why. This isn't just about you receiving a miracle. This is about you becoming one. This is about you stepping into the most significant season of your entire life. So the question isn't whether you're ready. The question is, will you answer the call? Chosen one, listen to me with every fiber of your being. The sun is setting on your season of delay, but the sun is rising with healing in His wings. Do you hear that? That sound rumbling beneath the surface of this moment. That's not your imagination. That's not wishful thinking. That's the sound of breakthrough thunder rolling across the landscape of your life. The storm you survived wasn't meant to destroy you, it was meant to announce you. For too long you've been living in the shadow of almost breakthrough, almost blessing, almost miracle. You've stood at the edge of your promise like the children of Israel at the Jordan River, watching the waters part for everyone else but wondering when it's your turn. When is it your turn? Tonight, I'm here to tell you, it is your turn. You see, the enemy convinced you that your age disqualifies you, that your mistakes disqualify you, that your past disqualifies you. But God specializes in using the disqualified. Moses was 80 when he led the greatest exodus in history. Abraham was 100 when he became a father of nations. Sarah laughed at 90, and God gave her the last laugh through Isaac. Your gray hair isn't a sign of decline, it's a crown of glory, Proverbs 16:31 says. Every wrinkle on your face is a testimony of survival. Every scar on your heart is evidence that you refused to quit when hell said you should. But here's what's shaking me to my core right now. This miracle that's been hunting you down, it has a sound, a vibration, a frequency, and it just found you. Not tomorrow when you feel more worthy. Not next month when your circumstances look better. Right now, in this sacred Sunday moment. Can you feel your spirit vibrating differently? That's not emotional manipulation, that's spiritual activation. Your DNA is responding to divine frequency because you were coded for this moment before the foundation of the world. Isaiah 43:19 declares, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Do you perceive it, chosen one? Something ancient is breaking open. Something eternal is stepping into time. Something that has your name written on it in heaven's permanent ink." For 70 years, maybe 80, you've been asking, why me? when trouble came. Tonight, God is answering with, "Why not you?" When the miracle arrives, why not you to carry this blessing? Why not you to be the vessel of divine demonstration? Why not you to prove that God's promises have no expiration date? You've buried children, spouses, dreams, and hopes. You've watched younger generations get what you prayed for. You've sat in doctors' offices hearing words that tried to steal your future. You've balanced checkbooks that reminded you of limitations, but limitation is not your Lord. Jehovah Jireh is. This great Sunday isn't about a calendar date. This is about a covenant, not a contract you signed, but a promise He swore by His own name. Hebrews 6:17 says, "When God wanted to guarantee His promises, He gave His word, a rock-solid guarantee." Rock solid. Guarantee. The miracle knocking at your door tonight doesn't care about your credit score. It doesn't care about your medical report. It doesn't care about your social security statement. It cares about one thing. Are you ready to receive what refuses to be delayed any longer? Every Sunday you've sat in church, every prayer you've whispered in the dark, every tear you've cried into your pillow, it was all building toward this crescendo moment. This is your divine climax. This is where faith becomes fact. This is where promise becomes proof. But here's the shocking truth nobody prepared you for. The miracle isn't coming to make your life easier. It's coming to make your life bigger. It's not coming to solve all your problems. It's coming to give you supernatural solutions that become testimonies for the next generation. Jeremiah 29:11 isn't just a pretty verse for greeting cards. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." Your future. At 65, at 75, at 85, God has future plans for you. Can you wrap your mind around that? When the world writes you off as past your prime, God says you're approaching your divine prime. When society whispers retirement, heaven shouts a Sigmund. This Sunday miracle is your divine deployment. You're not winding down, you're gearing up. You're not fading away, you're blazing forth. The wisdom in your head, the experience in your heart, the authority in your spirit, it's all been preparation for what God wants to do through you right now. That restlessness you've been feeling, that's not discontentment, that's divine urgency. Your spirit knows something your mind hasn't figured out yet. You're pregnant with purpose, and it's time to deliver. The miracle begins when this Sunday ends, because Sundays represent rest, but miracles represent movement. God rested on Sunday, but Monday He went back to work. And He's putting you back to work too. So stop asking God to bless your plans, and start asking Him to reveal His plans for your blessing. Stop begging Him to change your circumstances, and start surrendering to how He wants to change you through your circumstances. This is your moment, chosen one, not to retire from life, but to retire into purpose, not to fade into the background, but to step into the foreground of divine destiny. The sun is setting on your season of questioning. Tomorrow, you wake up knowing. Yesterday, the miracle came. Today, it's being tested. You felt it, didn't you? That surge of divine electricity coursing through your veins. That moment when heaven cracked open just wide enough for your breakthrough to slip through. You tasted victory. You breathed hope. You walked taller because God had finally shown up in your living room, in your hospital bed, in your empty house where silence used to mock your prayers. But now it's Monday morning, and the world hasn't gotten the memo. Every mountaintop moment echoes into a Monday morning, and now we deal with the echo. The bills still came. The diagnosis still sits on your kitchen table. The phone still doesn't ring with the call you've been waiting for. And suddenly, you're asking yourself the most dangerous question a chosen one can ask. Did I imagine it all? Listen to me carefully, dear one. What you experienced was real. But here's what nobody prepared you for: the collision between heaven's reality and earth's resistance. When the supernatural invades the natural, there's always pushback, always turbulence, always a testing of what just took place. What do you do the day after God moves? When the world hasn't caught up yet, when the healing hasn't manifested fully, when the miracle feels like it's playing hide and seek with your faith. You're not losing your mind. You're experiencing what every biblical giant faced after their divine encounter. Moses came down from Mount Sinai glowing with God's presence, only to find his people worshipping a golden calf. David was anointed king by Samuel, then spent years running for his life in caves. Jesus rose from the dead with all power in his hands, but Luke 24 tells us his own disciples were still hiding behind locked doors, paralyzed by fear. The miracle already happened, but fear hadn't gotten the message yet. And that's exactly where you are right now, isn't it? Caught between what God said and what you see, between what heaven declared and what earth is displaying, between the promise and the process. Let me speak directly to the pain that's sitting in this room with us right now, to the widow who thought Sunday's message meant her loneliness would finally lift, but you woke up this morning to the same empty bed, the same cold coffee for one, the same silence that feels heavier than 1,000 pounds. To the man whose cancer cells are still multiplying despite every prayer, every laying on of hands, every declaration that by his stripes you are healed, but the doctor's report hasn't changed, and you're wondering if God even heard you. To the couple who've been believing for a child for 15 years, who felt something shift in your spirit yesterday, who dared to hope again only to face another negative test, another month of disappointment, another conversation about other options. You believed yesterday, but today the ache came back. Why? Here's the truth they don't teach in prosperity theology. God doesn't work on our timelines. He works on His. And sometimes the gap between the promise and the manifestation isn't a sign that God forgot about you. It's proof that He's doing something so much bigger than what you can see. The disciples locked themselves away because they couldn't reconcile the resurrection with their reality. They had seen Jesus alive, walking, talking, eating fish. But Rome was still in power. Pilate was still on his throne. The same soldiers who crucified their Savior were still patrolling the streets. How could resurrection be real when nothing else had changed? Sound familiar? You're living in the same tension they were. You've encountered the living God, but the systems that opposed you yesterday are still in place today. The people who doubted your calling are still doubting. The circumstances that tried to break you are still trying to break you. But here's what I need you to understand. Resistance isn't rejection. Opposition isn't abandonment. The pushback isn't proof that the miracle failed. It's proof that hell is nervous. When Jesus walked out of that tomb, every demon in hell went into panic mode. When your breakthrough became official in the spiritual realm yesterday, the enemy called an emergency meeting, because he knows what you're still discovering, that what God has started in you cannot be stopped by what man has set against you. The disciples stayed locked in that room until Jesus showed up again, not because the first encounter wasn't real, but because they needed confirmation that what they experienced could survive the scrutiny of ordinary Tuesday mornings. And that's exactly what's happening to you right now. This isn't the end of your miracle story. This is the part where your miracle learns to breathe in thin air. You see, every promise of God has to go through a process of maturation. Like a baby in the womb, it has to develop unseen before it can survive in the seen world. What you experienced yesterday was conception. What you're experiencing today is gestation. And what's coming tomorrow? That's when heaven's baby gets born into earth's reality. But here's what you cannot afford to do in this in-between space. You cannot let earth's resistance convince you that heaven's reality was a lie. The medical report that contradicts your healing isn't the final word. The bank account that doesn't reflect your abundance isn't the full picture. The relationship that's still broken despite your prayers isn't evidence that God doesn't care. It's evidence that miracles have a rhythm, and you're learning the dance. So what do you do while you wait for the echo to catch up with the miracle? You stand firm in what you know, not what you see. You speak to the mountain, not about it. You declare the end from the beginning, because that's how God operates. You remember that Jesus is still alive, even when the disciples are still afraid. The tomb is still empty, even when the doors are still locked. The victory is still won, even when the battle is still raging. And in that tension, in that beautiful, terrifying space between promise and manifestation, you discover something that changes everything. You don't need the miracle to be fully manifested to walk in miracle authority. You don't need complete victory to live like a victor. You just need to remember who spoke the miracle into existence in the first place. But the question burning in your chest right now is this: how long do I have to live in this in-between space? How long before what I felt yesterday becomes what I see today? That answer is coming, and it's closer than you think. You felt it yesterday, didn't you? That fire in your chest, that knowing in your bones, that moment when heaven touched earth and you knew something had shifted. You stood up, you declared it. You believed it with every fiber of your being. The great Sunday had come, and the miracle was real. But now, it's Monday morning, and the devil doesn't fear your Sunday hallelujah. He fears your Monday obedience. Here's what nobody tells you about miracles, chosen one. The moment God speaks a promise over your life, hell dispatches its finest to test whether you'll hold on to what heaven just handed you, because the enemy knows something most believers don't. The space between promise and manifestation is where most miracles die. What do you do when the miracle is real, but the pain didn't vanish? What do you do when the blessing is spoken, but the bank account hasn't changed? What do you do when God says you're healed, but your bones still ache at 3 a.m.? Some of you are sitting there right now, and honesty is cutting deeper than any sermon ever could. You stood yesterday. You believed. You felt it coursing through your veins like holy electricity. You cried tears of relief. You declared your breakthrough. And now, you're wondering if you imagined it all. Let me tell you something that will either break you or make you. This doubt, this pressure, this feeling like you're losing your mind, it's not evidence that the miracle failed. It's evidence that it's working. You're like Peter walking on water, but the wind is howling louder now, and your miracle feet are shaking. The waves that seemed so small when you first stepped out are now crashing against your faith like 50-foot walls of doubt. And you're thinking, Jesus, where are you? I was doing fine until the storm got louder. But here's what Peter didn't understand in that moment, and what you need to grasp right now. The storm wasn't sent to drown the miracle. The storm was sent to prove it. Look at Jesus in Matthew 4. 40 days in the wilderness. Not 40 days in the Bahamas. Not 40 days of room service and spa treatments. 40 days of hell testing heaven's son. Because the devil knew something. If he could break Jesus in the pressure, he could steal the promise before it ever reached the people. And that's exactly what he's trying to do to you right now. You see, the enemy's strategy hasn't changed in 2,000 years. He doesn't come for you when you're down. He comes for you when you're up. He doesn't attack your weakness. He attacks your breakthrough. Because he knows that a person who survives the pressure after the promise becomes unstoppable. Think about Abraham. God promised him a son, but it took 25 years. 25 years of wondering if he heard God correctly. 25 years of Sarah's empty womb, screaming louder than God's whispered promise. 25 years of relatives asking, "So, how's that whole father of nations thing working out?" But here's what made Abraham the father of faith. He didn't let the delay deny the promise. And Joseph? God gave him dreams of ruling, then threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, landed him in prison. For 13 years, every circumstance screamed that God had forgotten his name. But Joseph understood something that most believers miss. The pit wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Right now, some of you are in your pit. You received the promise on Sunday, you're in the pressure on Monday, and you're wondering if God made a mistake, if you misheard his voice, if the miracle was just wishful thinking. But what if I told you that the pressure you're feeling isn't God's absence? What if it's His presence preparing you for something so big that the old version of you couldn't carry it? Here's the truth that will either offend you or set you free. God doesn't give His biggest miracles to His weakest vessels. He gives them to those who can withstand the pressure that comes with carrying the extraordinary. The weight you're feeling isn't meant to crush you, it's meant to strengthen you. The doubt isn't meant to destroy your faith, it's meant to deepen it. The delay isn't meant to deny your promise, it's meant to develop your character until you can handle what's coming. Because here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Every giant that comes after your promise is afraid of who you're becoming in the process of defeating it. When David faced Goliath, he didn't just defeat a giant, he became one. When Daniel survived the lion's den, he didn't just escape death, he stepped into a level of authority that made kings tremble. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walked out of the fiery furnace, they didn't just avoid getting burned. They carried the scent of heaven into every room they entered for the rest of their lives. The pressure you're under right now isn't random, it's strategic. Heaven is developing something in you that can only be forged under fire. You're not just waiting for a miracle, you're becoming one. But here's where most people lose their blessing. They quit in the space between the promise and the performance. They get the word from God on Sunday, they feel the pressure on Monday, and by Wednesday they're back to living like the promise never happened. They let the temporary eclipse their eternal. They let the process overshadow the purpose. Don't you dare be one of them. The very fact that you're under attack means you're carrying something valuable. The very fact that hell is working overtime means heaven has just made a major investment in your future. The very fact that you're feeling pressure means you're about to step into a dimension of blessing that requires this level of preparation. If you're in that space right now, if you're holding on to a promise while standing in pressure, comment, "I still believe." Say it even if it hurts. Say it even if your circumstances are screaming the opposite. Say it even if you feel foolish. Because faith isn't about feeling sure. Faith is about staying faithful when surety runs away. But what happens when the pressure becomes so intense that even your faith starts to crack? You know what nobody talks about in church? The silence. The gap between God, "I need a miracle," and when that miracle actually shows up. That terrifying middle ground where your faith feels like it's hanging by a thread. You're sitting there right now, aren't you? Between Egypt and the Promised Land. No longer where you were. Not yet where you're going. And the silence is so thick you can taste it. Here's what's really happening in that space. God isn't testing your patience. He's building your capacity. Because the miracle you're asking for, it's bigger than the person you were when you first prayed for it. And if He gave it to you too soon, it would crush you. Think about the Israelites in that wilderness. 40 years. Not 40 days. Not 40 weeks. 40 years. And every single morning they woke up to the same question. Will the manna fall today? Exodus 16 tells us something profound. It didn't fall once, it fell every morning. But they had to show up to gather it. They couldn't store it, they couldn't hoard it. They had to trust that tomorrow's provision would come tomorrow. The miracle is real. But miracles still require movement. You can't just sit in your living room and wait for God to drop your breakthrough through the ceiling. Faith without works is dead, the Bible says. You want to see that miracle? You've got to get up and gather your manna. The miracle is real, but miracles still require movement. Every day you choose to keep believing when nothing looks different. That's you gathering manna. Every morning you wake up and decide not to quit. That's you showing up for what God is about to do. The miracle is real, but miracles still require movement. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. You're tired of moving, aren't you? You're exhausted from showing up to the same situation, the same struggle, the same empty bank account, the same silent phone, the same test results. You want to throw in the towel because it feels like God forgot your address. Listen to me carefully. Your exhaustion is not evidence of God's absence, it's evidence of your faithfulness. The enemy wants you to interpret your weariness as abandonment, but heaven sees it as devotion. Do you know what Moses told the people when they started complaining in that wilderness? Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Not sit down, not give up. Stand still. There's a difference between resting and quitting. There's a difference between waiting and giving up. You think you're in limbo, but you're actually in labor. You think you're stuck, but you're actually stretching. The pressure you feel isn't punishment. It's preparation for the weight of what's coming. Here's the brutal truth. Most people quit 24 hours before their miracle shows up. They get tired of gathering manna. They get tired of showing up. They get tired of believing when their circumstances are screaming the opposite. But not you, not today, because you understand something they don't. He didn't just call you to receive it, he called you to walk it out. Your miracle isn't just a destination, it's a journey. And every step you take in faith, even when your legs are shaking, is reshaping the spiritual atmosphere around your life. You want to know why some people's miracles last and others fall apart? Because one group learned how to walk before they learned how to run. One group built their character in the wilderness before they got to the palace. That wilderness season you've been in, that wasn't God punishing you, that was God preparing you. Because the miracle that's coming your way requires a different version of you than the one who first prayed for it. You've been crying about the delay, but the delay has been your deliverance. Every month you waited built patience. Every disappointment built resilience. Every tear built character. Every prayer built spiritual muscle. And now, as you sit in this middle ground, you have a choice to make. You can interpret the silence as abandonment, or you can recognize it as anticipation. You can see the delay as denial, or you can understand it as divine preparation. The same God who fed 2 million people in a desert for 40 years hasn't forgotten about your situation. The same God who made water flow from rocks hasn't run out of creative solutions for your problem. The same God who split seas isn't intimidated by your circumstances. But here's what he needs from you right now. He needs you to keep walking, not because you see the end of the tunnel, but because you trust the one who lit the path. Not because it makes sense, but because he makes miracles out of the senseless. Your breakthrough isn't late, it's right on time. Your miracle isn't missing, it's in motion. Your answer isn't absent, it's approaching. The Great Sunday isn't just a day, it's a divine appointment. And you didn't survive everything you've survived just to quit now. You didn't pray all those prayers just to walk away. You didn't believe all this time just to give up 3 feet from gold. So tell me right now, are you still walking? Because the enemy is watching, hell is listening, and they need to know that the chosen ones don't fold under pressure, they flourish. Type it in the comments. I'm still walking. Let the enemy know you didn't fold. Let heaven know you're still here. Let your future know you're still coming. Because what's waiting for you on the other side of this silence will make every step in the wilderness worth it. Listen carefully, chosen one. I need to pull back the spiritual curtain and show you something that will change how you see every battle you've faced. You've been asking the wrong question. You've been wondering, why me? Why now? Why after everything was going so well? But here's the revelation that will shatter your confusion. What came against you after your miracle is proof that your miracle was real. You heard me right. That attack you've been enduring, that's not punishment. That's validation. That chaos that erupted right after your breakthrough, that's hell's official acknowledgement that you've crossed into dangerous territory, dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Hell doesn't waste fire on empty threats. The attack proves you're carrying evidence. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a security guard protecting an empty vault? When did you ever witness a full military assault on an abandoned building? Never. Because valuable targets get the heaviest resistance. You're not under attack because you're weak. You're under attack because you're dangerous. Let me take you to Mount Carmel with the prophet Elijah. This man had just called down fire from heaven. Not a spark, not a flicker, fire from heaven. He had embarrassed 450 false prophets, proven God's power before thousands, and then ran faster than King Ahab's chariot, supernatural speed flowing through his legs. Victory was total. God's name was magnified. The impossible had become inevitable. Elijah was riding the highest spiritual high of his ministry. Then came one message, one threat from Queen Jezebel. "By this time tomorrow, you'll be dead like my prophets." And this same man who had just witnessed heaven's fire, who had outrun horses, who had stood boldly before hundreds collapsed under a juniper tree and begged God to take his life. Does that sound familiar? You had your breakthrough, your Red Sea moment, your impossible made possible testimony. People were amazed. You felt God's power flowing through your life like electricity. Then came the backlash, the criticism, the setback, the betrayal, the doubt that hit harder than anything you'd faced before. And suddenly you're questioning everything. Did God really speak? Was that miracle even real? Maybe I imagined it all. No, beloved, you're not losing it. You're carrying it. Here's what the enemy knows that you're still learning. Every genuine encounter with God's power makes you a marked person. Not marked for destruction, marked for influence. The kingdom of darkness doesn't mobilize against irrelevant people. They don't waste their highest-level attacks on those who pose no threat. The intensity of your warfare is directly proportional to the authority you're about to walk in. Why do you think hell waited until after your blessing to launch its assault? Because before your breakthrough, you were just hoping. Now you're knowing. Before, you were believing. Now you're carrying evidence. Before, you were praying for miracles. Now you're living proof that miracles still happen. That shift from faith to testimony terrifies the enemy. A person with a fresh encounter carries an anointing that can't be argued with. You're not just talking about God's power, you're radiating it. The attack isn't trying to destroy your miracle. The attack is trying to make you forget your miracle. Hell's strategy is simple. Make you doubt what you experienced, so you'll never operate from that level again. Make you think you imagined it. Make you believe it was coincidence. Make you shrink back to where you were before heaven intervened. But I'm here to tell you, don't misread spiritual turbulence. You're not being punished. You're being promoted. That resistance you're feeling, it's the atmosphere of a higher realm pushing back against your entrance. That pressure in your spirit, it's the weight of new authority settling on your shoulders. That confusion in your mind, it's old thinking being replaced by kingdom perspective. You're not having a breakdown, you're having a breakthrough. Elijah forgot something crucial under that tree, the same thing you might be forgetting right now. The God who sent fire from heaven didn't suddenly become powerless because Jezebel made a threat. The miracle didn't become less real because the enemy roared louder. God had to remind his prophet, "Elijah, what are you doing here?" The same voice that answered you on Mount Carmel is still speaking. The same power that ran through your legs is still available. The same fire that fell from heaven burns even brighter today. The volume of hell's reaction is always proportional to the value of heaven's revelation. You've been given something precious, something powerful, something that threatens the status quo of mediocrity. The enemy isn't attacking your past, he's attacking your future. He's not trying to punish you for what God did. He's trying to prevent you from doing it again. But here's what he doesn't understand. Every attack only adds fuel to the fire he's trying to extinguish. Every criticism confirms your calling. Every setback sets you up for a greater comeback. Every lie the enemy tells about your experience only highlights how real and how threatening your testimony truly is. Stop apologizing for the warfare and start recognizing it as validation. You're not crazy for experiencing this level of resistance. You're chosen, and chosen ones don't get easy battles, they get victorious ones. The question isn't whether you'll survive this attack. The question is, what will you do with the authority you're about to step into when the smoke clears? You know what's driving you crazy right now? You've been praying, believing, standing on God's promises, and you're seeing something, but it's not the something you expected. It's not the grand, overwhelming, knock you off your feet miracle you've been crying out for. And because it doesn't look like what you imagined, you're starting to wonder if God even heard you. What if I told you that doubt is the enemy's greatest weapon against miracles in progress? Listen to me, chosen one. Some miracles come like a flash of lightning, sudden, brilliant, unmistakable. But others come like sunrise, slow, radiant, building momentum with every passing moment until the darkness has no choice but to surrender to the light. You've been watching the horizon, waiting for your lightning. But God has been painting your sunrise this entire time, and you've been too busy looking for the flash to notice the glow. In Mark chapter 8, Jesus encountered a blind man in Bethsaida. Now watch this closely, because this is going to shatter every religious box you've built around how God moves. Jesus didn't heal this man instantly. He healed him in stages. First touch. The man saw people walking around like trees, blurry, unclear, confusing, but still movement where there was once only darkness. Why would the Son of God, who could speak worlds into existence, choose to heal someone gradually? Because he knew you would be sitting here today, frustrated with your partial breakthrough, ready to give up on your incomplete miracle. He was showing you that progressive revelation isn't God's plan B. It's often his preferred method. That job interview that went well but you're still waiting to hear back, that's not rejection. That's stage one. That relationship that's healing but still has rough edges. Stage one. That financial breakthrough that started small but hasn't exploded yet. You're living in the trees, walking around phase, and you're about to step into perfect clarity. Just because it's not complete doesn't mean it isn't in motion. The enemy wants you to abort the miracle right before it reaches full term. He whispers, if God really cared, it would have happened by now. If you really had faith, you wouldn't still be struggling. If this was really from God, it would be easier. That's a lie straight from the pit of hell. Every partial healing in your life right now is proof that God hasn't forgotten you. Every small step forward is evidence that your breakthrough is building momentum. Every tiny improvement is heaven's way of saying, I'm still working. Don't you dare quit on me now. You want to know why your miracle is taking time? Because God is not just changing your circumstances, He's changing you. He's expanding your capacity to handle what's coming. He's maturing your character to match your calling. He's preparing you to steward the fullness without it destroying you. The blind man could have walked away after the first touch, frustrated that his healing wasn't complete. But he stayed. He trusted the process. He let Jesus finish what he started. Are you going to trust the process, or are you going to walk away with trees for people? Right now, say this with me, and I want you to feel the weight of these words settling into your spirit. It's happening. It's working. It's unfolding. Again, it's happening. It's working. It's unfolding. One more time, with authority. It's happening. It's working. It's unfolding. Your miracle isn't late. It's maturing. Your breakthrough isn't blocked. It's building. Your answer isn't absent. It's advancing toward you 1 degree at a time, and when it reaches full manifestation, even you will be shocked by how perfect the timing was. That restlessness in your spirit isn't doubt, it's anticipation. Your soul knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. You're closer than you think. You're further along than it feels. You're about to step from the blurry stage into crystal clear vision. Stop measuring God's faithfulness by your ability to see the full picture. If you're in the in-between right now, if you're seeing movement but not yet the miracle, type this in the comments. My miracle is maturing. Let that declaration anchor your faith. Let it silence the enemy's whispers. Let it remind heaven that you're not quitting on what God started, because here's what happens next. When you stop demanding lightning and start appreciating sunrise, when you stop despising small beginnings and start celebrating partial breakthroughs, when you stop questioning God's timeline and start trusting His process, that's when the second touch comes. And chosen one, your second touch is about to change everything. Chosen one, as we close this sacred moment together, I need you to carry 3 truths with you into every day ahead. First, your timeline is not God's timeline, and that's not a problem. It's protection. What feels like delay is often divine preparation. What looks like denial is frequently divine redirection towards something far greater than you originally asked for. Second, partial breakthroughs are not failed miracles. They are proof that God is moving. When you see trees walking around, don't despise the blurry vision. Celebrate it. You're closer to clarity than you've ever been. Third, you are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not behind schedule. You are exactly where you need to be for God to do exactly what He wants to do in your life. And here's what I want you to know with absolute certainty. You are not walking this journey alone. The God who split the Red Sea is the same God breathing life into your situation right now. The God who raised Lazarus from the dead is the same God resurrecting dreams you thought were buried forever. He hasn't changed. His power hasn't diminished. His love for you hasn't wavered. But more than that, you have a community here. Thousands of people watching this message are praying for breakthrough just like you. They understand your struggle because they're fighting the same battles. They believe in your miracle because they need miracles too. So let me ask you this. When you look back on this great Sunday 5 years from now, what will you say God did in your life that started here, started today, started with you choosing to believe one more time? Now, before you go, I want to pray over you. And I don't mean some quick, casual words. I mean the kind of prayer that reaches into heaven and pulls down breakthrough. The kind of prayer that silences doubt and activates faith. So wherever you are, your living room, your car, your bedroom, I want you to close your eyes and receive this. Father God, I come before your throne with every person watching this message. You know their names, you know their struggles, you know their secret tears and silent prayers. You know the dreams they've buried and the hopes they've almost given up on. Lord, I declare over each one of them that this great Sunday marks a turning point, that the miracle they're waiting for isn't just coming, it's already in motion. Open their spiritual eyes to see what you're doing behind the scenes. Give them supernatural patience to trust your timing. And God, when doubt tries to whisper that you've forgotten them, let your spirit roar louder with the truth that they are chosen, they are loved, and they are never alone. Bless their families, bless their finances, bless their health, bless their relationships, bless their callings. And God, in places where they can't even see the need, bless them there too. Let miracles follow them, let favor surround them, let divine appointments find them, and let this community of believers be a source of strength and encouragement as they walk toward everything you have promised. In the mighty name of Jesus, the same yesterday, today, and forever. Amen. Asterisk. Asterisk. Now, chosen one, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me what you're believing God for. Share your testimony if you've seen Him move. Ask for prayer if you need breakthrough. This community is here for you.